people, and David Palmer, who made the film, was one of those people.
Okay.
So I'm curious, you were talking about identity before and talking about like the construction of identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious what you discovered about differences in how people constructed their identities differently and how people felt about their identity and stripping it off for someone they didn't know and showing sort of an inner identity that most people don't see.
There's like 17 questions in that.
Sorry.
How do people feel about getting naked for me in general? They may be a little nervous, but 99% of the time after they're done, they feel marvelous. They feel incredibly liberated. I don't know what it's about, but I know when I see it. And honestly, like 99% of the time, people are so happy they did it, whether they end up in a book or not. It's hard to make blanket judgments about certain societies and certain cities, New York, L.A., London, Vegas. You know, things change, and it's interesting to see what changes and why it changes, and that's very much part of my vision, is trying to figure out what's going on. You know, there's a funny scene in the movie strip where I'm making naked Las Vegas, and I say as a joke that Oscar Goodman, who is the mayor of Las Vegas, put out a call to all women that they could have no more pubic hair. And so, you know, those type of things are, you know, some people are really interested in it and some people aren't. I'm fascinated by it. I'm not terribly obsessed with it, but I think it's interesting to think. You look at the people I photographed in 1995 in New York, and full of pubic hair, and then you go 12 years forward to naked Las Vegas, and there's almost no pubic hair, to the point that Lee, who's this terrific, incredibly great man I fell in love with, who's a gay homeless man in Las Vegas, he didn't know where he was going to sleep every night, but he still made sure that he shaved pubes. So that's more than I do, so I'm like, more power to you, Lee.
Well, it seems, and in the film, it seems like with the character that you just mentioned there was a few people whose backstories really actually got to you. Besides Lee, who you just mentioned, who are some of the more memorable people that you had for this project?
Well, I think that two of the better ones were a guy named White Owl and his bride, who is named Joanna. And Joanna is in the film is about 38 years old and used to be a man and is now a woman named Joanna. And you know, I think White Owl in the film first explains that he's XXY, which means he's got an extra chromosome, and he's not female or male. He's kind of in between, if you will. He talks about being a hermaphrodite and stuff like that, but I still don't get it. But those two were amazing because they're married to each other, and they basically are both males as far as our society would like to you know, pigeonhole them. They are both males, but they're not gay, but they're married to each other. So that's really why I do this type of thing, is like to uncover the layers of humanity. I mean, you can never, and that's why I wanted the film done, is because you can never realize what's behind these stories unless you do a film and see it. And, you know, it's so incredibly empowering to see White Owl talk about how he's in his third marriage, not to a woman, but, well, I guess Joanna's a woman, but he's in his third marriage, and he's happy as can be. He said the two marriages before him were full of shit, and there were always conditions, he says, and they're happy as can be. They live in Vegas, they ride their bikes everywhere, they don't work, I don't know where they get money from, and they wake up every day at 9 p.m. and start their day.
Right. Well, one of the other things that came through to me in watching the documentary was just the maddening pace of what Vegas is. And I think you talked a little bit about how, you know, you were basically going to bed at maybe like 3 in the morning, waking up at 4 in the afternoon, and just how Vegas just kind of starts to take so much from you. What were some of the difficulties beyond Vegas itself, just shooting in that town and trying to get a project done in that town?
Well, when I arrived in town, I had to find a place to shoot, and I was lucky that a friend of a friend referred me to someone whose gallery I could use. I shot in the back of a gallery, and constructed my own backdrop. The problem from day one was getting the people to pose and finding the people. I think at some point I placed ads in places in Vegas and Craigslist and things like that and websites. I had about 180 names and contacts of people before I left. By the time I got to Vegas, a year or so later, probably about 10 of those 180 contacts were still valid. The cell phones had changed. People had lost their jobs. Their homes were foreclosed. People committed suicide. Their emails were no longer valid. It's an incredibly crazy place, Vegas, and it's very transient. People are coming and going by the thousands every day, and I'm not talking about the gamblers. I'm talking about the local people that live there. And my challenge was to find a lot of people to photograph, and I ended up doing it.
Did you do this all by yourself, or did you at least have some help to help you out in accomplishing this?
No, it's pretty much all me. I mean, I hire assistants, but I have to figure out what I need them to do. So it's, you see me in the film pretty stressed, and that's for a very valid reason. I mean, it's a lot to take on. I ended up photographing 174 people.
And you used about how many for the actual final project?
Well, for the book, there's only 75. So okay. There's 99 people that aren't even in the book. So
did you get any backlash or anything like that from people saying, hey, what was wrong with me? Why didn't you choose me?
People, I think, understand the process, and they understand that I take a hard copy of the photos and go meet with my publisher in New York, and that it's not always my call. There probably were 15 people that I told the publisher have to be in the book, and because they helped me or for whatever reasons, or like White Owl and Joanna, like they just had to be in the book.
Right.
A couple of people, wrote me some not so nice emails, but it's not a big deal. Once I get back to them and tell them how the process works, they totally understand it. And, it's a horrible time for publishing, but I'm hoping that, maybe in the near future we can publish a second volume that some of those 99 people.
How do people get involved with your project if they want to be a part of it?
Which one?
Well, I guess you said you're not doing the naked places anymore. So
yeah.
Do you have like a website?
I do. My website is gregfriedler.com, and I don't know, are there graphics or something that go up on the radio station?
We can definitely help you put, whatever you like. You can always check out our Facebook page at, if you go onto Facebook and just type in Radio Lundy after the show, I'll be more than happy to put Greg's information up there as well. Just getting back to the documentary, there was one specific question that I definitely did want to ask you while we still have some time. There was, in a clip from the documentary, a gentleman is quoted as saying, "We are glad to contribute to this, but we are trying to figure out how this is art." How do you necessarily respond to people who maybe question what you are doing?
Well, I think in a way I'm lucky that not a lot of people question it. People either get it or they don't, and if they don't get it, there's not really a way to make up people's minds for them. It's definitely art. I mean, it's a very unique art project, and if people can't see how valid it is and what it means to people, and I mean, this is shown on Showtime for 3 weeks now, and it's the 5th most watched documentary in Showtime history so far, which is amazing. And I got one note from someone 3 days ago that was nice at all, but we're pretty sure that she stopped taking her schizophrenic pills and wrote me a nice email. Other than that, I've had about maybe 60 or 70 emails that are life changers.
Right.
Like people that are telling me stuff that I could never, ever surmise about myself because I'm too close to my own work and my own art. People saying it changed their lives, saying they look at art differently. People say they look at nudes completely differently now, and that type of stuff is great for me to hear. I mean, it's great for my confidence to know that I followed my heart. I did something that's close to my heart, and that something I think is important to the world.